Check. Check.
Unknown submarine contact in the vital area. Away the Nixie team away. Away the Nixie team away. Set general quarters. Set general quarters. General quarters, all hands, main battle station. General quarters, all hands, main battle station.
Nothing like starting a little late. Of course, I was looking at the wrong damn clock.
Oh, sometimes that happens.
Good Lord. Now I looked at the computer.
We should never be late, BZ. You look like Father Time.
Yeah, what happens when Father Time is late to his own damn funeral? Okay, so now I'm looking at the computer. Over here. My computer says 8:05. I was looking at that clock. That thing is 2 minutes slow. So
That's actually 3 minutes slow. In your defense, it is 3 minutes slow.
So...
But in the official studio clock, which you cannot see, it's 8:05.
That's right. It's pointing at the opposite direction, which is the funny thing. The digital clock that I look to see what time it is on the far right coast, it says 23:05. So maybe I should start looking at that thing.
We should just have all of the clocks up from like the different parts of the world, like a real newsroom.
Oh, right, exactly, or a truck stop or something like
yes.
that. You know, what's the time? What's the time in Moscow? I always wanted to.
You know what time it is in Moscow? It is time for Sackheads against tyranny.
No kidding.
That's what time it is right now in Moscow. And coincidentally, more evidence of Russia collusion with the United States. Here in America, it is also time for Sackheads Against Tyranny. So, ladies and gentlemen, CNN, if you're listening, there's more evidence that the U.S. is in collusion with Russia, particularly the Trump administration, because at the exact same moment, and it's bizarre because we're in two completely different time zones, but at the exact same moment, even being in two different time zones, both are able to tune in against tyranny at the exact same moment. It's mind-blowing.
It is mind-blowing.
It is mind-blowing.
Well, this is great. You, of all people, are going to appreciate this.
Okay.
Now, the chat room was kind of lonely last week. We felt like we were a little alone. And,
no, we didn't. We don't care.
Okay.
Because we entertain ourselves.
Okay, we do. I don't know. That opens an entire different passageway that I don't think I want to go right now in terms of self-entertainment. Anyway.
Turn the cameras off. This is not that kind of show.
No.
We'll leave the microphones on, but you got to turn the cameras off.
That's right. Then it becomes just a theater of the mind, okay? You can't see it, but you can hear what's going on. So we're going to leave you to interpret.
And how much is sound effects versus not?
Reality.
Right?
God, what a great thing. Now, here's the real kicker. Combine that with, I see we've got some McAllen over there.
Yes.
And I see we still have some bullet left.
Not much.
Yeah, that's really low these days. Anyway, I was going to say that we have Mike already in chat.
Oh,
we
hello.
have Dan Butcher in chat.
Dan.
And we have Dave Milner in chat, so welcome to everybody.
Excellent.
That's great to have all those folks right at the beginning of the show.
It is, and I want to start the show. I have a story for you, BZ.
Oh, God, this is great. I love your stories.
I have a story for you. Okay. So this is a true story, by the way, 100% true story, which makes it even more awesome. So no shit, there I was, standing in a store with none other than Box Wine.
Okay.
And Box Wine needed to purchase a couple more crates of wine, and I think this particular store had, I think it was like I think it was like buy 20 boxes for 50 cents each or something like that.
Wow, what a deal.
So it was a great deal, and I'm talking some really good wine. Like the year was 2018.
Like box wine are us.
Yes, but it's box wine is
Vintage.
she. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good vintage.
And so I'm carrying these crates of wine up in the forklift as we're driving up there with the forklift, and I look over and box wine is proceeding to take her driver's license out of her wallet. And I said, "What are you doing?" And she said, "Oh, well, I'm going to get carded." And I looked at her and I said, "This is how big of an asshole I am, right?" I said, "You're fucking way too old to get carded. You're not going to get carded. Put your fucking ID back, right?" And she goes,
ow.
"I always get she is amazing, which is why I love her, but she's a great sport." And she says, "I always get carded. I'm getting carded." So I'm hefting these cases of box wine up onto the conveyor belt.
That's right, off of the pallets.
Yes, and the guy is looking like, "Oh my gosh!" And so I go like, you can see the camera. I go like this, like it's all hers, right? Because this nice bottle of bourbon is mine.
You brought your your Ford F-750 flatbed.
I did, yes. And I took all the hay bales off, so I had plenty of room. And so she proceeds to hand the checker her ID, who then briefly glances at it, doesn't even read it, and hands it back. We finish the transaction. As we're walking out, she says, "See, I told you I'd get carded." And I said, hang on a second. I said, hang on a second. You handing your ID to somebody without provocation or being asked for it does not constitute being carded. That is the equivalent of somebody handing somebody else on the street their wallet and saying, "I got robbed."
Here, would you hold this?
Yes,
hold this.
I got robbed. Yeah. And
hold this just for a second. Police, police.
And she proceeded to say, "No, I got carded." And I said, "No, you voluntarily submitting your identification to somebody does not constitute getting carded."
And that's why I love your stories.
Which was amazing. And by the way, BW is listening right now because I just got the emoji with the little red face and all of the the swear word parts across it on my phone. So obviously she's listening. Yeah. And since she's obviously happy, I challenge her to tell me any part of that story that is inaccurate, with the exception of the crates of wine.
Does she know the phone-in number? She can phone in.
She can phone. Oh, I'm sure I'll get a phone call on this phone right here.
Okay.
Because
I tried it last night with Dan Butcher and had Dan on for the show. And thanks again, Dan, for being on for the entire 2 hours. But the phone worked. And people on the other end can hear the audio cuts, and it's a discrete channel. It's like a real radio show now, so it's absolutely grand. Really enjoyed the hell out of this. Now tonight, old Clint and BZ are.
Well, I have something for you, a topic that.
We are going to rip through the gristle of the news.
No, I'm not, but because it still kind of falls under the whole like lightening up the show thing, and this thing right here, which this thing right that thing.
Now that's the first time that anybody has seen the Bobcat. And I told people we have a Bobcat.
Oh yeah, no, that is a real.
And for those who doubt we have a Bobcat. Clint has just showed that in the studio, number one, this is not our bedroom, okay? This is not a bathroom. It's an actual studio. And there in the studio is the Bobcat.
Yes.
The mascot of the Berserk Bobcat Saloon.
For the record, that thing almost got shot when I walked in tonight. I just want to make that clear. But there is something that I thought of, and it was actually kind of funny that I came into that site because I came in this evening wanting to share a particular story with the Berserk Bobcat himself,
really?
The Bloviating Zeppelin, and that is this. Did you hear about the people in Texas? I don't know if they were a family or just three people. They took these kittens in, and I think there was I don't know if there were 3 or 4 kittens, but they took these kittens in. They thought they were Bengal kittens, which are a rarer domestic animal, and they took these kittens in and they started feeding them milk, when all of a sudden the kittens began to tear and shred the milk bottles that they were being hand fed from, and injured 3 people.
Kittens.
These were bobcat kittens.
Oh, well, they were not quite of a mind to put up with human beings.
Bobcats mistaken for domestic kittens were brought into a Texas home. I can't make this up.
And they didn't domesticate all that well.
No, because how would hi.
There you are again.
There I am.
You cute.
I'm gonna stare.
Guy.
I'm gonna stare at the screen right here. I look fantastic this evening. By the way, did you notice?
Look fantastic.
You look fantastic. That's a better shot right there.
You look marvelous.
Did you notice my shirt? I have my Iceman shirt on.
Oh, does it say anything?
It says Iceman. Iceman from Top Gun. It's Iceman's helmet.
Where does it say Iceman?
Right here, Iceman. It
Oh,
says
okay.
helmet. It
All
says
right.
Do you remember? Come on.
Okay.
Because what kind of Top Gun fan are you? They're coming out with Top Gun 2, July of next year.
No.
Yes. It's
Okay.
called Maverick.
So now let me guess.
Tom Cruise is in it.
Okay.
So is
Tom
Val
Cruise-
Kilmer.
Tom Cruise is going to be in it. So let me guess. Tom Cruise now is the guy that manages Top Gun.
I have
He's the
no
guy
idea.
that runs it.
I don't know.
Because Tom Cruise is like mid-50s now.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how they're going to make his character, but I'm going to see the movie.
Oh, hell yeah! I'd see the movie. You know, Val Kilmer has not been in a major movie in a long time.
Yeah,
and Val
since
Kilmer,
Heat, I think, right?
He did Heat. He did either Tombstone.
He did Tombstone, but Heat was after.
Was Heat after?
Yep.
Okay, Heat was like 96, 95, 98, something like that.
Yeah, well, he's coming back as Iceman.
He hasn't been in a major film in quite some time. He got like super heavy.
Mm-hmm.
He got into alcohol. He was doing a whole bunch of crazy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He made a ton of B movies to kind of keep things going. But I'll tell you what, if Val Kilmer's coming back, I will sure as hell go to see, a Tom Cruise Val Kilmer movie, and to see an update on Top Gun. Hell yeah, I'd go see that.
Absolutely.
By the way, just out of curiosity, did you see Infinity Wars?
Not yet. Not yet. Don't spoil it for me.
Okay. All right. Because once you see it, I want your opinion, and then we can talk about it.
Okay.
But if you haven't seen it, I don't want to spoil anything.
Yep, I have not. I have not seen it.
It's 2.5 hours, so it's rather lengthy. But at the conclusion of the movie, you're going to have a definite opinion, and that 2.5 hours will have seemed like it just went poof.
I always have a definite opinion, BZ.
I
don't need to wait until the end of Infinity Wars to
doubt
develop any kind of absolute opinion.
in the slightest.
Got it.
But and at the end of I think the 25th. When is Memorial Day?
It's a day
Memorial
where we
Day?
remember the sacrifices for people. Is that what you were referring to?
No, I think Memorial Day is like around the 25th.
Oh, the date.
Something
The
like that.
date of that. Yes, I don't. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Anyway,
I'd have to look at the calendar.
Deadpool 2 is coming out now. If you liked Deadpool 1,
Which I did. I was a huge fan.
I loved Deadpool #1. I thought, oh my God, that was a great movie. Enjoyed the hell out of it. And then the trailers for Deadpool 2 are kind of fun as well. Because he makes reference to Josh Brolin being Thanos, and then he makes reference to Josh Brolin being a new character in the Deadpool movie.
It's all the same
kind of
cinematic universe still, right? But
Yes,
X-Men
it is.
and X-Men and
Yeah.
Avengers don't really. I don't think they
'cause
cross over very much.
I don't think this is too much speaking out of school, but Josh Brolin is Thanos in the Marvel Universe.
Mm-hmm.
And now in Deadpool, still the Marvel Universe, he plays Cable, who is kind of an assassin guy with a fake arm.
Oh.
And he's going to be...
And they call him Cable?
Cable. And now he's going to be a
Why Cable with a
nemesis,
fake arm?
Just
Like with a
I
fake
don't know. I collected...
with a fake arm, like Slappy,
I know.
right?
I collect. I haven't told anybody this, but or maybe I may have said this maybe last week or week before. I still have Spider-Man #1.
Wow.
And
That
I don't bring it out. It's in a safety deposit box, and I keep it there. I don't take it out. It's in plastic, and I don't even really look at it. But I bought it from a revolving comic stand back in 65, I think is
Wow.
when it first came out. I'm trying to remember. 64, 65, right around in there.
Wow.
And it was drawn by Steve Ditko and authored by Stan Lee,
Wow.
and it cost me 10 cents.
Wow. You know what
Now,
that thing's worth now, I'm guessing?
It's not in perfect shape because as a kid, you read your comic books and you keep them, and it got a little bit of wear and tear. I'd guess right around my guess would be it's anywhere from, say, $10,000 to $15,000. Because really good ones, Nicolas Cage had his comic books ripped off. He lost hundreds of thousands of dollars of comic books, and I've heard like a really like a pristine #1 going for like up to 20.
Well, I can tell you. So when my grandparents moved from Hawaii here to the mainland,
Right.
My grandfather had. Back up. I was talking to my grandparents. My family's from Hawaii. I think most people know that if they've listened to this show any length of time, or SHR for any length of time. Once I was in high school or something, my grandparents moved here to the mainland,
So you spent all your elementary school days in Hawaii.
Nope. I grew up here on the mainland as well, but I'd go back and I'd spend a lot of time.
Okay.
I go spend a lot of time with my grandparents in the islands.
All right. Now, what island were
growing
they
up.
on?
Oahu.
Okay.
Oahu. So my grandfather was a Pearl Harbor survivor. On my dad's side of the family, so my parents actually knew each other growing up. The families literally lived right down the street from each other.
That's
so
really neat.
it was pretty cool. But when my grandparents moved here to the mainland, finally, I remember talking to my grandfather one day and talking about just all the junk they threw away before they moved, and all the junk my grandmother got rid of. Well, some of the junk my grandmother got rid of was all of the Superman #1s.
No.
The first DC comic books, Batman #1s.
You had that.
And he had...
he had it.
He had it thrown away before they moved because they thought it was junk.
My
#1, he had them all saved. He had them all saved and everything and lined out. And his baseball cards. Tobacco card baseball cards.
Those. Well,
For a
time.
according to him, he had a Ty Cobb.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. Well, back up a little bit. I don't know that much about sports collecting. Cards used to be really popular in the 90s. Do people even collect them anymore?
They
do. They
do.
Sell them? Are they still worth a ton of money?
Depends on the card, right? But if you're talking about a tobacco baseball card, an original one, let me see if I can find a price here.
Well, in the meantime, while you do that,
I'm talking. These are ridiculous. Like a 1909 to 1911 Ty Cobb baseball card is one of the rarest games. I mean, you can talk about $150,000 for a card in poor condition.
oh my God, that's like,
And that's on Forbes. So, that site doesn't really know what he's talking about.
right, because they're not like rich or anything.
Yep.
And we met.
Yes.
Not Malcolm, but
and
his son.
And drank.
Yes, we did. We shared bourbon
Yes, we did.
with Mr. Forbes, and his bodyguard was a way cool guy. We saw that same guy 2 years in a row when we were at Freedom Fest 16 and 17.
Yep.
Sadly, we are not going this year. We will not be at Freedom Fest. There's just too much kind of crazy stuff going on. So, unfortunately, SHR will not be at Freedom Fest because we kind of thought, okay, if poor Sean can't make it, then
Yeah.
we're not going to end up going either. I had a collection of Matchbox cars, probably 100 Matchbox cars that at the time they were 49 cents. And I mowed lawns to save up for all these Matchbox cars. Now, they were made by Lesney in England. And also coming out of England were dinky automobiles, which were bigger, more realistic.
That's an oxymoron.
And they had actual rubber tires.
They're dinky, but they're bigger.
And a dinky car was probably 4 to 5 inches, all metal frame, just like
It sounds smaller than that.
The original Matchbox cars, right, are smaller than a dinky car. And then God, what was the other automobile? Oh, Corgi. I had a ton of Corgi cars. And, of course, when you're a kid and your mom thinks that you're done playing with stuff, what does your mom do? She throws everything out, including I had I started collecting Fantastic Four in 65, 66. They started after I had one of the first Hulks back when the Hulk was drawn by Jack Kirby, and the Hulk was gray, not green. The original Hulk was gray. Those two comics, plus a bunch of others, I started collecting Fantastic Four about number 3, number 4. So I don't have number 1, number 2, or number 3. And my mom threw the rest of those away. All my dinky cars, all the rest of my comic books, like that.
Well, I want to talk about how batshit crazy California is real quick before we get to our break, because then we do have some serious topics to get into.
Boy, are they.
So California now, here's the epitome. What is the epitome of the nanny state? Has passed yet another regulation today on a 5-0 vote along the Energy Commission after they really scrutinized and put a lot of thought into all of the public feedback they got. California now requires every brand new home being built after the year 2020, or so the year 2020 and beyond, to be solar powered, to have solar.
Woohoo.
Every single home.
What a plus.
Every single new home in the state of California. They're estimating right now, and when the state estimates how much something is going to cost you, they are always very accurate.
Of course.
Yes.
Of course. They're very, very accurate.
They are estimating that the price of each new home will be increased by only $10,000 per home now.
Frankly, I think that's a super low ball.
BZ, let me ask you this: if solar panel companies, and let's say there's only a few that make solar panels that are capable of going on homes and that meet the California guidelines, once companies are now required to put those on all of their new build homes, what is going to happen to the price of those solar panels?
Well, it's like when you what let's see, a corollary to that would be when the United States government decided that it was going to get into the student loan business. What happened to student loans? So the answer to that is, my guess, prices would maybe, I'm not sure, maybe kind of sort of tend to go up. Is that what you're looking for?
Yes, because if you have to have this product, and there's only a few of us that make it, we're going to say, you know what, we can do it for $10,000 a home. We now realize, because we have to do so many of these and expand so much, and technology it's just ever evolving, folks, we hate to do this to you, but now that same system that was $10,000 this year, now it's going to be $15,000. Or maybe it's going to be $20,000, or maybe the base one is $15,000, but since you're really not plugged into the grid that much anymore, now we're going to say they're $20,000. And now your energy prices, because now the energy companies are not going to have to produce as much energy and get the same kind of revenue.
Oh, do I have a story about that?
California.
Okay, good news or bad news?
Oh, fuck it. Bad news, right? Let's just do it.
Oh, okay. The bad news is that the bulk of solar panels are manufactured in
China.
China, yes, exactly. So what happens when China gets word of the fact that an entire new market has opened up in an entire state, which is now the 5th largest economy on the planet? California is. So what do you think will happen with pricing when China realizes, oh, now because it's mandatory, do we have California by the balls or what? So actually, no, I'm sure China will be resolute and they'll be conciliatory and they'll say, no, we're going to do the United States a kindness. and we won't throttle them. We won't overcharge them or anything like that. Dave Milner in chat says, hey, ask Clint, will the houses have to be powered completely from solar or only partially? And if partially, how much?
It doesn't say. They talk about the requirements for the panels themselves. And if those of you that follow California politics at all, you remember that there was a huge scandal in the solar industry here in the state. With subsidies and taxpayer funding of bull crap, and these fop doodles don't understand. By the way, fop doodle.
Doodles. Wait a minute. Okay. I'm coming up with an intro for the Shat Show,
Okay.
and in the intro, here it is. I'm writing down as catch can. I need to insert the
Fop doodle.
word fop doodle.
Yes, this is a fantastic word.
Okay,
Fantastic
so
word, by the way.
as you're talking,
But they passed this because they want to
fop
fop doodle. They want to cut greenhouse gas emissions by 700,000 metric tons over 3 years.
Okay.
That's the goal of this. The goal is all about climate change. It's not about saving the consumer money. You're going to save. So $10,000 is how much it's going to increase the price of the house. But we're estimating that you're going to save over the life of your 30-year loan, you're going to save $19,000 over the life of your 30-year loan. So because you're paying $10,000 more on the front end, you're saving $19,000 on the back end.
Sure.
You're getting a good deal.
Oh, damn it. As I said before the show, one of the first things that I said to you is it's a privilege to live in California, because living here in this leftist purple-skied utopia, it's so resplendent with all the great liberal thoughts and ideas that we have.
I'm sorry, but hang on. Making $9,000 over 30 years is not my idea of rolling in it. I'm saving $9,000 30 years later. Are you fucking kidding me?
Well, that's if you stay in the state.
And that's if the prices don't go up at all for 30 years.
Right, because they won't. Let me throw this into the mix. We got... oh, shoot. Well, I'm looking at that clock as opposed to that clock, so
we're up against a break.
It really is time to take a break right now, but maybe I should throw this out before we do take our break, and that's this, because the estimators for the bullet train, they were so accurate, too. It was only supposed to cost... I don't know, what was it, $12, $15 billion? And now it's up to $150 billion.
And they're being investigated as a result, like we pointed out last week.
The estimators of 9,000 per building that might...
What did you call them, the master what?
Estimators.
Oh, estimators.
Estimators might not be so terribly accurate. Folks, we're going to be right back after this. Don't go away.
California.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show, also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com. And maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capitol, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through shrmedia.com, highplainstalkradio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender ever,
because truth is not always pleasant.
Hey guys, it's Sackhead Clint. I'm excited to tell you about a brand new show here on the SHR Media Network. I'm teaming up with the one and only all-powerful, the bloviating Zeppelin, sitting here to my left, bringing to you a fresh new show here on the network. It's Against Tyranny. And we'll be picking up where the Sackheads left off. Excited to be with you, sir.
Sackheads Against Tyranny.
We're going to chat. We're going to chat Wednesday nights.
S-H-A-T.
Sackheads Against Tyranny.
Wednesday nights, 11 p.m. Oh, it's the same time, right? 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific.
Same sack time, same sack channel.
Yep. SHRmedia.com.
See what I did there?
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
Hey, BZ. So the plan's working. You got rid of Sacco. Sean is now stepping away.
I never even saw him.
And I know, and insidious. Insidious. You know, we talked about this for, a good, for the last 3 years. And finally coming to fruition.
You know I'm still in the room, right?
It's almost like he's here still. Did you hear that?
Yeah, it's kind of...
It's amazing. It's kind of
at you.
It's kind of eerie.
Kind of a poltergeist.
Like a poltergeisty thing.
Yeah, Sackheads Against Tyranny.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Well, it's Sackheads Against Tyranny. It's the Shat Show, broadcasting live and direct from Shatramento, Fornicalia.
From behind enemy lines.
Well, I can't use that. I'm stealing from myself if I do that. But I will say this, and I stuck it out on social media. Let me rephrase that. That doesn't sound really good. I put a picture out on social media where someone sent me a photograph of an individual in downtown Shatramento whose buttocks are naked, and he's bent over taking a dump right in the middle of the sidewalk of Shatramento. So now if you happen to see a promo for the Shat Show, the Sackheads Against Tyranny show, and that proves once again that we are broadcasting from Shatramento, California, and that we are a Shat Show. Now we are going to get a little bit serious, and we're going to...
And that's a direct reflection of the policies of the mayor and the police department
and anybody
in
else
Sacramento
connected with that. But then again, this is in keeping with the perfect leftist utopia. I see you're eyeballing the bobcat, aren't you?
I am.
You are eyeballing that bobcat.
I am.
I can see it. It's kind of creeping you out over your left shoulder there.
I'm actually thinking how much I'd like to have one at home.
I have to say, Whiskey Dale isn't on. Sometimes he comes in the chat room, but he's the guy that sent the bobcat to me
Yeah.
And
like not a stuffed one, like a real one, like to guard against predators. But I honestly think, like, if I came into the studio and you weren't here, and I didn't expect that, like that thing would really probably have a couple rounds right through it.
I wouldn't. When you say that,
yeah,
I don't doubt you.
Yeah, don't doubt me.
I don't doubt
you
in
not,
the slightest.
Not for a minute.
Oh,
like
yeah, it'd
that,
be
yeah,
all clear on the left.
Yeah,
clear on the right. All clear on the firing line. Bangity bangity bang bang bangity bangity bang. Pew 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 pew. Okay, what are we going to talk about next? We're going to continue with California, because California is way messed up. But here's the other thing we were talking about in terms of California. If they're going to do this, and I think to get a solar system now, you're looking at about anywhere from $10,000 to maybe upwards of $15,000, depending on what kind of square footage you have and how big your roof is and how kind of how large a solar system you want to put on.
Solar system's pretty large. A lot of planets in there.
Yes, they are. They are.
Asteroid belt, big sun.
Yeah, good point.
Thanks.
And so they're not cheap, in other words. And I was going to tell you a story about there was a utility district back east where they kept saying, save electricity, turn off your light, bring your thermostat down in the winter, bring it up in the summer. So everybody in that utility district complied, and the utility decided that it had, quote, air quotes, it had to raise rates because it wasn't making the same amount of money that it used to. And you brought up the same effect. So what happens when everybody has solar panels, and locally it's SMUD, the Sacramento Municipal Utility District, and what happens when SMUD doesn't have enough money to keep up its building or its infrastructure, or it just built a brand new big building along Highway 50. So what happens when like them or PG&E, because where I am up in the mountains, I'm served, maybe I should say screwed over, by PG&E, Pacific Gas and Electric. So my electric rates are actually
through the roof.
Actually, I have a pretty good system. I have a heating and air conditioning system by Toshiba, of all people, and it's the kind of system, it's an inverter, and I have two, one upstairs and one downstairs, and they're really good with energy. So I have air conditioning up there, and it cools quite well, and my utility bills are not that bad. So I'm lucky.
You are lucky because PG&E is a
they are rapacious.
Oh my gosh.
Plus down here, and you may know from some of the people that you talk to at work, I used to have folks at work that would tell me that in the summer they would have it wouldn't be out of the way to say that they'd have $300 to $400 to $500 utility bills.
Absolutely.
Per month.
Yep, absolutely.
$500 a month for electricity. How do you like that, folks? How do you like them apples? Are you paying $500 a month for electricity in your state? I kind of bet you're not.
And here's what's going to happen. Look, you already have folks leaving the states of California. You see the report that came out? Folks leaving California and New York, the higher state tax states because of the Trump the Trump tax cuts.
Right.
So you have people leaving there, and you have housing that's already not affordable in California.
And there aren't enough.
And there's not enough housing. And now you're going to drive the prices up even more with these ridiculous regulations and requirements for a perceived greenhouse gas reduction.
Right, and of course the privilege and honor of living in the state of California and basking in its great leftist utopia, this great leftist philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
Huzzah! How wonderful we should all be. But I asked at the beginning of the show, now if they're going to bone regular residents, why shouldn't they bone businesses as well?
Well,
aren't businesses going to be next up for bid?
Probably any new constructed business or commercial dwellings or commercial structures. Probably,
because
what's that going to do to your prices now?
Well, sure, and your square footage, because everybody charges in a business per square foot.
Yep.
And here's the other thing that I would ask. Is you can get away with putting this stuff on your personal roof of your home Apartments are going to be different. But what happens in a high-rise?
Yes.
Where are you going to get your solar panels on a high-rise? Because the footprint of a high-rise is nothing like the footprint of, say, a ranch-style home in California, where you do have some square footage available on the roof to be able to put that. But the square footage available on the roof of a 20, 30, 40, 50 floor building, where are you going to do that? Are you going to have to put, here's another question, like some of the places already do around here, are you going to have to put solar paneling on top of your parking lots? And are they going to mandate that you build up? And if you build up, are you going to have to put a solar panel array on top of a vertical parking garage or facility? These are all great questions. Nobody has any answers right now. So California, wow. Folks, you need to move here to California, because the other good thing about listening to us is that you understand what's going on in California, because what we're going to do next is export this crap to you. If you think that these ideas aren't going to cross our borders and go into your state, you would be terribly wrong to harbor that thought. Oh, no, because leftists in your state are using California as the perfect leftist petri dish to understand what to export and what to do in their state or your city, your urban rat cage on the East Coast all the way to the left coast. So if you think you're exempt, perhaps not so much. Just, here's another example. If you want to rent a U-Haul from, say, San Francisco or the Silicon Valley, and you want to take it to Texas, let's say, you're going to pay anywhere from $7,000 to $10,000 for that U-Haul for the privilege of driving it to Texas if you're going one way, and people are assuming that you are. I looked. What's the charge for a U-Haul, a big U-Haul, sufficient to carry a fairly decent household from Texas to California?
$100.
It's about $2,500.
Oh.
So, hey, nothing like cutting a fat hog while you can.
So what's the fee? Like why the difference? I mean, I know why the difference.
Yeah,
but.
you know why the difference.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like that rules that's trying to make it to where have you seen California is trying to make it where if you retire from the state of California and you take your retirement funding outside of the state of California, they wanted to tax it.
Well, I better move quickly,
right?
Then, hadn't I?
Well, they'll get away with it for a couple years, right?
Yeah, and then somebody will sue the living crap out of it because
but here's the thing,
discover it's unconstitutional. But in the meantime, they'll get money out of it.
Yes, they will, and they won't have to pay it back.
That's like people were saying. We're going to get into the Iran deal, but folks were saying, well, all the money, the $170 billion that we shipped in a C-7 unmarked C-17 in the dead of night over to Iran, we're going to get that money back. No, that money's blown. It's gone. You're never seeing that again. And guess what? It didn't go to the Iranian people.
Nope.
It went to, Muslim Brotherhood, Hezbollah, Al-Qaeda, et cetera, because Iran is the largest.
Well, let's talk
terrorism.
about Iran and what's happening right now. There's a lot happening in the Middle East right now. And
boy.
So you have Donald Trump coming out, President Trump coming out and saying this week that our involvement in the Iran deal is done. You have former Secretary of State John Kerry engaging in criminal activity by going and engaging in diplomatic negotiations and diplomatic discussions with other countries on behalf of the United States. He is no longer in government, folks, and he is going and talking to folks and talking to I think he was talking to Iran about how to maintain the deal or what they could do, talking to Great Britain and the other countries about how they can put pressure on the Trump administration and America to stay in the deal. Folks, nobody has ever been charged under the Hatch Act. This is a fucking strong case for that. Pardon my French.
I think it's a Logan Act.
Or I'm sorry, the Logan Act. What did I say? I
think
said the Hatch Act,
that's
right? Yeah,
It's
I
a
apologize,
Logan
but it's a
Act
Logan
violation.
violation.
But also, the other thing I find interesting, isn't that exactly what they were saying Michael Flynn should be guilty of?
Yes.
And that they pointed fingers and said, Michael Flynn, well, that's another reason that we need to investigate Trump, because there's collusion, and he and his other minions are violating the Logan Act by acting as private citizens and attempting to deal with foreign powers as private citizens.
Yes. Look, I don't care if anybody has ever been prosecuted for it or not. It came about in, 1799?
Yeah.
But he sure as hell is violating it now. The law's on the books. If you're going to go after Michael Flynn for it, then this seems a little bit more overt than anything that Michael Flynn may or may not have been doing.
Well, and it's all over the newspaper.
Yeah, there's no question here what John Kerry is doing, and there's no question that he does not have the authority to engage in this behavior. Zero.
There's a story. It says former Secretary of State John Kerry's under fire over a report claiming that he's been engaged in shadow diplomacy with officials from Iran and Europe as part of a final attempt to save the seemingly doomed 2015 Iran nuclear deal, which we know for a fact is doomed now. Kerry sat down twice. The Boston Globe reported this and said Kerry sat down twice with Iranian Foreign Minister Javad Zarif in recent months to strategize in a bid to save the deal as part of what the Globe described as an aggressive yet stealthy mission to put pressure on the Trump administration to keep the deal in some form. Boston Globe had it. New York Times had it. I don't hear anybody talking about, let's string up John Kerry.
No.
Or maybe charge him with a violation of the Logan Act. And even if people were saying that, they're sufficiently cognizant to realize the actuality, the chance of that truly happening is twofold, slim and none. Yet here we have John Kerry operating as a private citizen, meeting with people in Iran and Europe to make sure that they keep the Iranian deal, which they didn't keep. Now, we also know that President Trump met recently with Angela Merkel second and Emmanuel Macron first in order to discuss the Iranian deal. Now, Clint, why would Germany and France have much of anything to say about the Iranian deal? Oh, that's right. They have lots and lots of business dealings in Iran, including at one point the installation and construction of nuclear reactors in Iran.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of that
and
stuff,
that was and French scientists,
yes,
if I'm
and,
remembering correctly, helping them
to do precisely that. How odd. And now, because it's the same continent effect, they're on the same sheet of paper, if you will. All the land masses are connected. And so as they are suffering from Syria, etc., they know that because they're connected in one way or another, that Iran can elicit consequences. So they don't want the United States to go with sanctions, which Trump was essentially saying that he was going to do, and in fact did. He made good with a campaign promise, and he made good on the Iran threat, which is that's what he said he was going to do. But here's the other thing that a lot of folks don't realize. That deal was not a treaty.
No, it was not.
A treaty is something that needs to be signed and approved by the Senate. It was not. It did not appear before the Senate. So when people call it the Iranian deal, it is just that. It's a deal. And it has to be renewed every 90 days. So Trump didn't really take out a big pen and strike it out, per se. All he needed to do is just let it lapse, which is what he said he was going to do, and then add sanctions to that part.
Yeah, and people forget that. I mean, I don't even know, and I remember discussing this at the time on Sackheads, I don't know that President Obama had the authority to engage in this deal, because the Constitution, unless I missed it, does not allow for the President of the United States to engage in deals with other countries. That, by definition, is a treaty, and that power is reserved not to the President of the United States. We talked about it then. So whether you think that the so-called deal is a good deal or a bad deal, the fact remains that the President doesn't have the authority to engage in that, because it's a freaking treaty. What is the definition of a treaty? It is an agreement between two nations for X, correct?
It's an official sanctioned agreement between two nations where each nation's administrative, legislative architecture in some fashion, depending upon the nation state, approves and sanctions that treaty.
So what's the difference between
the
what?
hands can
So
reach
what is
across
the difference?
ocean and say, okay.
So what's the difference between what Obama did and what a treaty is? There is none. It's not legal, in my opinion. It was unconstitutional, in my opinion. I'm no constitutional scholar. I'm not that smart or anything like that. But he couldn't do it. So Trump is absolutely right to let it lapse. He never should have re-upped it after the first 90 days.
There's a lot of stuff that he shouldn't have done that he did, but now he's finally coming around to the point where he's saying this stuff is not going to happen again. One of the things was he's saying that he's not going to sign a budget like that ever again. Well, he signed it. That's an issue for another day. But
well, he did sign it, and now he says he's not ever going to sign it ever
Yes.
again. It's problematic because he realized it hurt him.
Yeah. And it did come back, and he should have been able to see that. He's a big boy. In any event, there's a whole bunch of stuff that people aren't being told about the JCPOA. Let's see, the Washington Post fact checker, they said yesterday that Iran is never going to build a nuclear weapon because they reduced the number of centrifuges to 5,060. Okay, that's true. They did reduce the centrifuges, the number of centrifuges, but the deal is the deputy director of the CIA, a guy by the name of Mike Morrell, already said that 5,060 centrifuges in Iran gives them enough enrichment capacity to produce bombs. Just not a peaceful power program, but it does give them enough to make bombs.
Yes. And I want to read you a definition of treaty.
Okay.
A formal agreement between two or more states in reference to peace, alliance, commerce, or other international relations. 2, the formal document embodying such an international agreement. How does what Obama did differ from what that definition of a treaty is? There's zero. There is none. There's none. So the left may be arguing that well you can't let the treaty lapse. You have to renew it. You can't end the treaty or the deal. Well, yes, he doesn't have. I would argue that President Trump does not have the legal authority to extend it or to engage in the deal again.
Well, let's put it this way: Obama and Kerry also did not disclose the full elements of the deal itself.
But even regardless of that fact,
well, yeah,
what
you're saying is back up and let's examine the whole issue of a treaty itself.
Yes, and
he cannot conduct the business of the United States like this.
Correct.
Because essentially what he did was completely overlook the separation of powers and one entire branch of government.
Yes, and I'm saying that Trump cannot. He does not have the authority to re-up this deal because this deal is in fact a treaty.
Let's see. The Obama administration. We got 3 more minutes.
Okay,
so.
I thought you had some comments then. Well, look, there's more going on in the Middle East, and I know we're going to end up having to talk about a lot of this stuff after the break. But there is a lot happening in the Middle East right now, and staying on the Iran topic. Iran launched some rockets into Israel from Syria. And while we were prepping for the show, I think, about 10 or 15 minutes before we came on, we learned that Israel had retaliated, and Israel actually stated that they were retaliating specifically against Iranian forces that were in Syria. And now you have Syria that's coming out and getting involved, and that could potentially turn into a mess. So Iran is getting a little bold. And then you said that Iran had launched something into Saudi Arabia also this week?
They had launched some rockets into the Golden Dome system, took down some of the rockets into Saudi Arabia. And everybody needs to know that Saudi Arabia and Iran do not play well on the playground together, because one is Sunni, the other is Shia. And just by dint of that fact, they don't really like each other. So Iran screwing with Saudi Arabia is doing that, and they're clearly backed. And how far do you want to go in terms of talking about a proxy war, for example? Because we have a pretty good idea. Well, we already know the bulk of Saudi Arabian defense equipment is American. And anything that happens to be in Iran, and definitely in Syria, is produced by the Russians.
Well, Iran had some U.S. warplanes and some U.S. equipment from back. They have the F-14, I believe the F-14 Tomcats, which coincidentally, and this is interesting, I went to the Aviation Museum here in Sacramento at formerly McClellan Air Force Base, but it's a Smithsonian affiliate museum. It's a great museum.
It's a great little museum. It really is excellent.
They have an F-14E on display, and on open cockpit days, they'd open up the cockpit so you can sit in it, but they do not open up the cockpit of the F-14, and they actually pulled everything out of that F-14. And one of the folks from the museum staff said that they were told to do so because there is concern about the theft of potential of parts to be stolen from that aircraft and sent over to Iran. So there is some American equipment there, and there is some effort, at least here. I thought that was interesting. Whether that was true or not, I don't know, but I thought it was interesting that would even come up.
Well, and of course, who left an assload of equipment back in the Middle East when we pulled out of Iraq?
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, I know too. And why is Iran getting all uppity and launching all this shit from Syria? Why don't they put their big boy pants on and have the testicular fortitude to launch shit from their own country?
We're going to go to a break. When we come back,
that's a valid question, I think.
Oh, it's a great question. We're going to come back and talk more about Iran, about a potential proxy war, and just what the hell can be done because of this. Are these the tumultuous times that we were worried about? I really don't have an answer to that yet. You're going to have to wait for the break and come back, and then we'll talk about it. Folks, you're listening to the Sackheads Against Tyranny. Sackheads Clint and Sackheads BZ. Don't go away.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show. Also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capitol, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through shrmedia.com, highplainstalkradio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender ever,
because truth is not always pleasant.
Hey guys, it's Sackhead Clint. I'm excited to tell you about a brand new show here on the SHR Media Network. I'm teaming up with the one and only all-powerful, the bloviating Zeppelin, sitting here to my left, bringing to you a fresh new show here on the network. It's Against Tyranny. And we'll be picking up where the Sackheads left off. Excited to be with you, sir.
Sackheads Against Tyranny.
We're going to chat. We're going to chat Wednesday nights.
S-H-A-T.
Sackheads Against Tyranny.
Wednesday nights, 11 p.m. Oh, it's the same time, right? 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific.
Same Sack time, same Sack channel.
Yep. SHRmedia.com.
See what I did there?
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
Hey, BZ. So the plan's working. You got rid of Sacco. Sean is now stepping away.
I never even saw him.
And I know, and insidious. Insidious. You know, we talked about this for, for the last 3 years. And finally coming to fruition.
You know I'm still in the room, right?
It's almost like he's here still. Did you hear that?
Yeah, it's kind of...
It's amazing. It's kind of
at you.
It's kind of eerie.
Kind of a poltergeist.
Like a poltergeisty thing.
Yeah, Sackheads Against Tyranny.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Welcome back. It's the Sackheads Against Tyranny. And let's see. I am Sackheads BZ. This is Sackheads Clint. And we are Sackheads Against Tyranny. We are back. It's the second hour of the show already. And we were talking about Iran. And
seems like we've been here for 4 hours already.
Does it? Okay, just because
I'm
I started the show 2 minutes late. I was looking at the wrong damn clock. Damn me. Anyway, we're talking about Iran. We're talking about President Trump and what he has done recently. And also about there was a reaction from Benjamin Netanyahu as a result of what Trump had done. That's to say, eradicated the Iran deal. Not a treaty, as Clint points out. Not a treaty. It was not a treaty.
Yes, it was.
Well, okay. It acts like a treaty. It looks like a treaty. It walks like a treaty. It was intended to have the effect of a treaty. But it's a deal, meaning that, as you say, you don't believe that it was lawful in the first place.
Nope.
And that because of that, President Trump should never have allowed the thing to continue in the first place. Is your bone of contention, I believe?
Correct.
Okay. Here's Benjamin Netanyahu, who responded recently to President Trump's determination with regard to Iran.
Israel fully supports President Trump's bold decision today to reject the disastrous nuclear deal with the terrorist regime in Tehran. Israel has opposed the nuclear deal from the start because we said that rather than blocking Iran's path to a bomb, the deal actually paves Iran's path to an entire arsenal of nuclear bombs, and this within a few years' time. The removal of sanctions under the deal has already produced disastrous results.
Listen to this, because as we all know, Israel sits basically on the doorstep of Iran.
The deal didn't push war further away. It actually brought it closer. The deal didn't reduce Iran's aggression. It dramatically increased it. And we see this across the entire Middle East. Since the deal, we've seen Iran aggression grow every day in Iraq, in Lebanon, in Yemen, in Gaza, and most of all, in Syria, where Iran is trying to establish military bases from which to attack Israel. Despite the deal.
As they did today, as you already mentioned, Clint, via the rocket attacks.
Yep.
The terrorist regime in Tehran is developing a ballistic missile capability. Ballistic missiles to carry nuclear warheads far and wide to many parts of the world. And as we exposed last week, since the deal, Iran intensified its efforts to hide its secret nuclear weapons program.
Okay, let's stop right there just for a second, because that's a perfect stopping point for this. There was, let's see, let me go back here. Benjamin Netanyahu gave a presentation last week indicating two words, Iran lied. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was because of this presentation that President Trump ended up drawing the conclusion about Iran that he did.
Incriminating presentations.
Let me go back. That was towards the end.
We are going to reveal new and conclusive proof of the secret nuclear weapons program that Iran has been hiding for years from the international community in its secret atomic archive. We're going to show you Iran's secret nuclear files. I'm here to tell you one thing. Iran lied.
What he hasn't mentioned up to this point is that Israeli operatives went into Tehran, Iran, into a warehouse and removed 2,000 pounds, 1 ton of documents under their noses that revealed to Israel what Iran had been doing all these years.
Big time. After signing the nuclear deal in 2015,
yes,
Iran intensified its efforts to hide its secret nuclear files. In 2017, Iran moved its nuclear weapons files to a highly secret location in Tehran. This is the Shorabad district in southern Tehran. This is where they kept the atomic archives, right here. Few Iranians knew where it was, very few, and also a few Israelis. Now, from the outside,
a few Israelis. Gee, I wonder which ones they were.
It's an innocent-looking compound. It looks like a dilapidated warehouse. But from the inside, it contained Iran's secret atomic archives locked in massive files. Actually, they're a little bigger than this, okay? A few weeks ago, in a great intelligence achievement, Israel obtained half a ton.
Obtained, air quotes, obtained.
Of the material inside these vaults. And here's what we got. 55,000 pages. Another 55,000 files on 183 CDs. Everything you're about to see is an exact copy of the original Iranian material. You may want to know where are the originals. Well, I can say they're now in a very safe place.
Yeah.
Here's what the files included. Incriminating documents, incriminating charts, incriminating presentations, incriminating blueprints, incriminating photos, incriminating videos, and more.
And what that basically gets down to is saying that Iran lied about not doing anything with their nuclear program. Behind the scenes, as they were making promises to the world, they kept processing. They kept centrifuges moving.
We knew that here at the Sackheads. This is not a bombshell allegation.
There was an article I read. I don't have it up right now. There was an article that I read in Foreign Policy magazine. Now, that should give you a clue as to what kind of blockhead leftists write at that thing. But from Foreign Policy magazine, they were essentially saying that it's in the best interest to be conciliatory to these various nation states because they could become angry. And the worst thing is that, and as they've said, that they're going to ramp up production of their nuclear program. My question is, what kind of a nincompoop thought that all during these years, because Iran wasn't allowing inspections anyway, not like you could walk off a plane at Tehran airport and say, hey, I need to inspect some of your facilities according to the IAEA. Foreign Policy magazine says, oh, now that you've negated the deal, oh, they're just going to speed up their nuclear program.
They never stopped.
They never stopped the program. What makes anyone with half a brain think that just because the world waggled their finger at Iran, that Iran became instantly, oh, well, yes.
No, do you know why?
I'm sorry.
I can tell you why they.
Again.
I can tell you why they kept doing that. Why they kept up on their nuclear program. Do you want to hear?
Of course.
This is absolutely true. I think.
Okay.
Iran knew that President Obama didn't have the fucking authority to sign a treaty, so they knew it was bullshit and they didn't have to abide by it. How's that for full circle, BZ?
Okay, that is a completion of a full circle, and yet you have John Kerry going to Iran and other leaders in Europe attempting to subvert that deal, which now I think. Well, let me ask you, Clint.
Yes.
As a logical thinking adult, human being,
yes.
You've got a brain in your skull. And you can figure things out because that's part of your job. That's how you've been so successful in life. That's how you've come to be successful in life, in your business, etc. What makes anyone think that Iran was ever going to abide by anything that the United Nations, Europe, or the United States either suggested or mandated? Further, history proves, have they ever?
Because it's the same rationale that said that when somebody goes to prison that they're rehabilitated when they come out. And therefore we're not going to make things felonies. And we're going to decriminalize everything. And then crime is going to go up anyways, exponentially, in spite of the fact that most things aren't crime anymore. It's that same mentality. That's why, BZ.
Right,
and I say that kind of tongue in cheek, but it is. It's the exact same mentality, and I don't know if it's. I think it's stupid and misguided for sure, but I don't know. Here's what I struggle with in terms of getting mad at people that have that philosophy. It comes from a place of ignorance.
I believe so completely,
and because it comes from a place of ignorance, it angers me when their position is defended so vehemently that they absolutely know what's right. It's their perspective, and I get that, but the data suggests that they're wrong, and yet they still push the point. But I have sometimes I wonder, man, am I being too hard on them? Because I honestly think that in some of their cases, not all of them, but in some of their cases, that their heart is actually in the right place, that perhaps they really want to believe the best in people, in spite of the evidence to the contrary. I think there are legitimate people out there that really want to believe in the best in the Iranian government. I believe there are people out there that really want to believe in the best of people after they go to prison who really want to turn their life around. The evidence doesn't suggest that any of that is true, but there may be some cases where that is true, and I wonder if that's where some of this comes from, why they keep. So to answer your question, that's kind of a long-winded way to say I don't freaking know what the hell a leftist thinks or why.
I would go so far as to say that when something occasionally is either simple or a cliche, there can frequently be some major elements of truth within. I don't know that I can immediately label leftists evil, per se, although they're pushing my envelope and I'm currently daily being disabused of that notion. But the other thing that I think they really have no grasp of whatsoever is they respond from a plateau of emotions and not facts.
Yes,
and I think that's
that's
fundamental.
But that's where I come in to say that I think that's in some respects that's good, right? Because they give a shit at least. It's not about power, it's about emotion, right? I want to give these people money because I feel bad for them.
Only on one level, only on a much lower, immediate community type level.
Yes.
The higher you go in leftism land,
it's about
then
power and control.
The more it becomes about money, power and control.
Absolutely.
Just as you say.
100%. 100% agree with you. But that's why I really kind of have to so I've grown in my since I've been doing this here with SHR. I've grown. It used to be all leftists pissed me off, period, all the time, 100% of the time.
That's not a bad philosophy, though.
Yeah, but it's not fair to them because, like you said, there are people at the base level who really just want to do the right thing, and maybe they don't have the facts. Right, they don't have the facts. Maybe they don't have the analytical insight. They don't have whatever. They believe they're doing the right thing, and so I have a hard time getting angry at those people. The ones that I do think are evil, and it is about power and control specifically, are the ones who are in power. And look at, do you remember this time last year? It was May, right around. I bet if you search news articles, Sacramento Bee and these other places, I bet you will find articles maybe from this day, but right around May 7th, 8th, 9th, right in this week. The state of California attempted to allow communists to hold public office and work for the state of California.
Whoa.
And it passed.
I missed that one.
Oh,
I missed it.
Please, right now, I want to know how right I am on the dates. Here's my hands, folks. How right am I on the dates? First of all, so Google it or Bing it or whatever search engine you opt to use and tell me, first of all, how close am I on the dates?
Okay, let me go over here.
And just look at...
so how would I phrase the question?
California votes to allow communists in state service. I bet you'll pop something with that. And it was right about this time last year. And it
oh my God.
And it didn't get very much play. The vote passed.
Okay. Are you ready?
Yes.
Are you sitting down?
Yep.
Okay, this is from kcur.org. California's assembly.
Hey, what's the date?
I'm getting to that.
I'm sorry.
I'm getting to that.
I just want to know if I was right.
California's, we will get to that because it's in the article I'm looking at.
Okay.
California's assembly votes to allow communists to hold state jobs. A bill in California that would remove a ban on members of the Communist Party working in state government was sponsored by an assemblyman, and it was passed. Now, shall I tell you the date of that article?
Please do.
May 9th, 2017. Literally, today, 1 year ago, you cheated, didn't you?
No, I absolutely did not. 100% I did not. But I did know it was right about this time last year.
You were absolutely correct. You are shakingly prescient about that. And to have it come back today, now I would have guessed, this week sometime. But
that's what I thought. I thought it was right around this week sometime.
And I had no idea that bill had even gone through.
Oh, how did you miss that?
I missed it. Apparently,
it did not get a lot of play.
No, it sure went the hell over my wheelhouse.
Yeah, and we brought it up.
But that's the state of California again for you. The kind of people that want to be here. And let's see, not this week. Last week, I think, would have been the 200th birthday of Karl Marx. The 100th birthday of communism was about a month and a half ago. So after 100 years of communism, 200 years
which has
now,
failed everywhere.
Which has failed everywhere. And with 100 years also comes 100 million dead people behind communism.
Mm-hmm.
And each individual dictator or nation state or leftist thinks that they can do communism or socialism much better than the last guy, and we won't have any bodies in the street either.
And you want to hear something really...
We learn nothing.
No,
from
we learn nothing. And you want to hear something really, really weird. I mean, everybody who's a halfway thinker understands how dangerous that is and why that is such a horrible thing. The article, and why that's such a big deal in California. But here's something else. You know how you hear of the Antifa group and anti-fascists and fascists,
right.
and right. And we've talked a lot about communists and fascists on this show, and the two groups have hated each other forever. But the funny thing is, they are both different sides of the socialist coin.
Yes, they are.
They are both socialists. They are opposite sides of the socialist coin. So on one hand, you have...
And they'll argue endlessly about the details
yes.
of that, but the foundation,
yes.
the fundamental theory behind it is similar.
So on one hand, okay, the fascism, or let's start with communism. Communism, it is all... none of it is government-owned. It's all owned by the people. However, it's government-controlled.
In actual... Yes,
right?
in the way it actually works out...
It is government
It
controlled.
is controlled by the government.
Yes. So in fascism, everything is still owned privately, but it is controlled by the government. So let's think about this. If something is owned privately on paper, but is really controlled by the government,
who really owns it?
Who has the power?
Right.
It's the government. If something is really if something is owned by the government but controlled by the people, i.e. communism, right? Everything is owned by the government, controlled by the people. Who's really in charge? The government.
Yep.
The government's in charge, both, right? It's big government. It's socialism, different ways of doing it.
Well, let's back up a little bit. What's the one thing we learned about the book Animal Farm by George Orwell? What's the one line that almost anybody can repeat out of Animal Farm? All animals are equal. Some animals are more equal than others.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a perfect example written by Eric Arthur Blair under the pen name George Orwell, who talks about England's, at the time, obsession with communism. And they're still semi-obsessed.
Yeah.
And we're finding that elements are starting to emerge here in the United States as well.
Yes.
Bernie
Outwardly.
Sanders.
We just talked about 20 some odd different races that they're outwardly socialist now. Remember that? We just talked about that last week or the week before. Outwardly socialist here. I'm surprised you had no idea that passed here in California.
I did not know. I should bone up on my local California stuff.
That was a huge deal. That was a huge deal to Sean and I. Sean lost his damn mind. You'd have to go back and listen to the show, but I remember Sean lost his mind. I don't remember if it was on air or just in studio while we were prepping for the show.
Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. When I post this show, because I post all the BZ shows and I post all the Sackhead shows, when I do that, I'm going to go back into the Spreaker archives for Sackheads and see if I can find that show, and then in the post that I create for this tonight, I'll put a link in there so people can go and listen to what it is that you and Sackhead Sean happen to say about that situation. So I would be looking for probably like the week after May 9th.
I don't remember. I don't
Last
remember.
year?
You'd have to look probably within that couple time frames. Sean
Okay.
may have it. Sean may have it marked somewhere.
Okay, I'll start looking for that. And in the meantime,
it's time for our final break. A couple minutes early.
Yeah,
we're at a good stopping point right here.
I guess
to tie.
we got 3 more minutes. We got 3 more minutes before the bottom of the hour.
I guess to tie it all back, because we talked about leftists and the deal and all that other stuff, and we kind of went off on a tangent. I got us on that tangent,
which is okay. That's what we do here, by God.
I apologize.
And it was a great tangent. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, it was a fantastic tangent. But there's a lot going on in the Middle East right now. I mean, we could. Depending how Iran responds, and I'm not saying that we need to stay in the treaty because or ratify it as a treaty because Iran might get pissed off. Yeah, whatever. I don't care about Iran. They get pissed off all they want. But what it is going to do is raise tensions in the Middle East, and tensions in the Middle East are already raising. I mean, you just look at the hotbed of activity there, and it seems like a lot of this centers around Syria. Right, you have Syria, Russia in Syria, Iran in Syria. You have Israel now getting attacked by Iran from Syria and then attacking into Syria for Iran. You have the Iran nuclear deal that's going sideways. Israel in there, and you just have it is such a perfect storm for things to really kind of heat up and
light off,
yeah,
like a little powder.
It is. But you know what you don't hear a lot about anymore is you don't hear a lot about the terrorist activities or the anti-terrorist operations in Afghanistan and Iraq.
No.
Have you noticed that?
Right. Oh, here's another thing that Saudi Arabia said today.
Al-Qaeda's been very quiet. I don't want to say the Q word. They have not been very active, it seems.
Saudi Arabia said today that if Iran decides or somehow acquires a nuclear weapon, that it too is going to acquire a nuclear weapon. Now, move the situation, move today's chaos into a Middle East where almost every nation state now has a nuclear warhead pointed at each other. Now throw that into the mix in the environment that we're encountering today. Here's an article, and we're going to have to hit a break here in about a minute. That's about all I got left. Here's an article from the Times of Israel. After alleged Iranian barrage, Israel launches massive counterattack in Syria. IDF warns Syrian military not to interfere as it pummels Iranian targets in largest direct exchange between Jerusalem and Tehran, the capital of Iran. 20 rockets were fired at Israeli military bases by Iranian forces from southern Syria just after midnight on Thursday, sparking the largest ever direct clash between Jerusalem and Tehran, with Israeli jets targeting numerous Iranian-controlled sites across Syria. And what also is controlled in Syria? Russia. And with that lovely little thought, we're going to go to a break, and folks, we're going to be right back. You're listening to the Sackheads Against Tyranny.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show, also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capitol, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through shrmedia.com, highplainstalkradio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the unpleasant blind guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender ever,
because truth is not always pleasant.
Hey guys, it's Sackhead Clint. I'm excited to tell you about a brand new show here on the SHR Media Network. I'm teaming up with the one and only all-powerful, the bloviating Zeppelin sitting here to my left, bringing to you a fresh new show here on the network. It's Against Tyranny. And we'll be picking up where the Sackheads left off. Excited to be with you, sir.
Sackheads Against Tyranny.
We're going to chat. We're going to chat Wednesday nights.
S-H-A-T.
Sackheads Against Tyranny.
Wednesday nights, 11 p.m. Oh, it's the same time, right? 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific.
Same Sack time, same Sack channel.
Yep. SHRmedia.com.
See what I did there?
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
Hey, BZ. So the plan's working. You got rid of Sacco. Sean is now stepping away.
I never even saw him.
And I know, and insidious. You know, we talked about this for for the last 3 years, and finally coming to fruition.
You know I'm still in the room, right?
It's almost like he's here still. Did you hear that?
Yeah, it's kind of.
It's amazing. It's kind of
at you.
It's kind of eerie.
Kind of a poltergeist.
Like a poltergeisty thing.
Yeah, Sackheads Against Tyranny.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
That's it.
No, that's not it. We have 30 minutes more.
I know. This is
25 minutes more.
The final 25 minutes of the show.
The final 25.
And, yes.
Welcome to the final 25, brought to you by SHR Media Network and The Shat Show.
And The Shat Show
You
live
have
from...
reached the final 25.
Maybe.
I kind of like that.
Okay. All right. Where's my piece of paper? Here it is right here. I'm going to have to write down the final...
The final 25.
Final 25. Because you know what I can do is I can maybe have somebody do a reading for me. So after, like the music comes in and then another voice with some electronic background stuff says, and now the final 25 of the Shat Show. You know, somebody with a really deep voice, like Tim Hart, the guy that I get to do my promos.
Yes.
Maybe I could have him do something like that because Tim is a kick-ass guy, and he loves doing my shit.
So that's gross.
Well, doing my voiceovers. That's what I meant.
Okay. So have you seen the latest endorsement? Well, not endorsement. But the latest person to come out against the nomination of Gina Haspel?
You mean besides every Democrat?
Yes, besides every... Well, I guess this guy would be a Democrat, that closest aligned to a Democrat.
Oh, wait.
Khalid Sheikh Mohammed.
Oh.
KSM.
He wanted to be imported into D.C. in order to make a presentation in front of the committee that was hearing the nomination of Gina Haspel.
Is that not the best endorsement she could get? That is amazing. How awesome is that?
This has precedent. This is history, and you will appreciate this bit of history. Do you remember the Indianapolis, the USS Indianapolis in World War II was the ship that took the atomic bomb out to Tinian on a secret very, very secret mission.
Got sunk on the way back.
Got the bomb over there, and then it was helmed by Captain McVeigh. And do you remember the scene in Jaws where Quint is talking about being on the USS Indianapolis?
I sure do.
And in the water, watching all of the sailors being pulled down into the water at night from all the sharks. 800 sailors went into the water, and just a handful of people came out, including Captain McVeigh, who made it back to the United States. Here's the precedent. The at issue was he zigzagging his cruiser as he was coming back? He couldn't. He was told radio silence. You can't communicate. He was overdue. They really didn't know where to look for him, for Christ's sake, because there was nothing immured in writing as to what he was doing or where he was going. His people were eventually found. At issue was he operating under proper orders by zigzagging? They found the captain of the Japanese submarine who sank the ship that night, and had him present information which indicated that he was zigzagging. And he was courts-martialed, and only much later, I think it was after he shot and killed himself, the Navy finally exonerated Captain McVeigh. But around I may have gotten my years wrong, either 54 or 64, Captain McVeigh shot himself and killed himself because he lost all of those sailors on his ship. And he and his family and the name were dragged through the mud in the press, and he was branded essentially a traitor when it turns out that was not true.
Yes.
So there's precedent for this. Let's bring the enemy in and have them testify against people that we want to destroy politically.
Well, he offered to come in.
Oh, I'm sure he wants to.
He offered to come in. But what a great endorsement, right? If I were President Trump, I would wear that as a badge of honor. I'd say, you know what? My CIA nominee is such a badass that KSM,
KSM wants to
does not even
against him.
does not even want her anywhere near the agency. Like, I'd be like, if I were a guy, say, wait a second, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed does not want this chick in the CIA. Oh yeah, I'm voting for her.
Oh yeah, she's done.
She's in.
You're in.
Yep, you're in. Well, KSM hates you. You're in.
Don't need any more convincing than that. If that's what he says, bada bing, bada boom, you're in the chair. What's the one thing that all the Democrats and leftists don't like about Gina Haspel is she had something to do with rendition. Now, she's changed her tune, but when Dianne Feinstein, here's the interesting part about this, when Dianne Feinstein was grilling her, it was also, and don't you wish that people would throw these little quips back to their inquisitors? It was Dianne Feinstein during that time that didn't raise a peep of objection to rendition going on at the time. They were different times and different circumstances.
Yes.
And all the leftists seem to have fucking forgotten about that.
Yes.
Conveniently, for political theater. Now, do you think she's going to get confirmed?
Yes.
I do too.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be a wonderful thing. Finally, the morale of the CIA, I think when she gets appointed, I think the morale of the CIA is going to rise quite a bit. And now, sitting in that chair, you're going to have someone with a great deal more ethics than I suspect John Brennan ever had, ever. If there was a true leftist, and some people suggest that John Brennan is sort of a sub-rosa, you were talking about communism? I've heard people say that they believe that John Brennan has a little communist influence running through him. But just at the point where they said all the alphabet agencies, they're unbiased, they're apolitical, it all comes out. James Clapper lied. It all comes out. James Clapper lied. John Brennan lied. It turns out that James Clapper leaked information to CNN. They're all biased. Comey, biased. Wray, biased. Brennan, biased. Clapper, biased. All from the alphabet agencies.
Mueller.
There is apolitical. Well, there is nothing apolitical in D.C. If it's in D.C., it's political as hell. Period. End of statement.
Well, I want to shift gears and talk about North Korea. Look, Donald Trump should be getting major accolades from everybody. 3 American prisoners, three people being held there as prisoners in North Korea, have been released. They are on their way back to the United States.
What a great story.
President Trump has said that he's going to meet them when they land. Folks, this is a big deal.
It's a huge deal.
North Korea doesn't just release prisoners and release prisoners in good health. The little Kim is giving all of the indications that he is serious about kind of mending the relationship as much as it can be mended, that being said, but of maybe agreeing to get along in the region. He's giving all indications of that.
Here's why, though. And a new story came out. We'll get back to the 3 guys that just got released, but I'm going to, if I might, pontificate.
No, please, this is your segment.
For just a moment or so, and that's this. 2.5, 3 months ago, Real Kim took the green armored train out of North Korea and met with Xi Jinping. The only photo that I remember coming out of that meeting was Xi on the left looking at Kim on the right like the principal looks at a bad student.
And Kim, I believe, looked like he had a potato in the back of his pants.
Pretty much. He looked like he had kind of a load, so to speak.
Yes.
Then we find out just yesterday. Where is the story? Here it is by Fox News. Catherine Lamb. Kim Jong-un meets secretly in China with Xi Jinping ahead of nuke talks with U.S. Northern Korea leader Kim Jong-un and Chinese President Xi Jinping met secretly in northern China on Monday and Tuesday, marking the 3rd time that Kim has left the Hermit Kingdom since he took power 6.5 years ago. Now, since the first meeting, or a little bit before the first meeting, say roughly 3 months ago, we have noticed a complete lack of missile firings and launches, a complete cessation of anything having to do with a nuclear detonation or a rocket launch. Very quietly. Then he met with South Korean President Moon. He crossed the DMZ. He agreed to a nuclear freeze if South Korea decides that they're going to do it. And then, and Mike Pompeo, by the way, as CIA director, sits and meets with Real Kim. And then he flies over to North Korea, now as Secretary of State. And they make an arrangement for a sit-down, a time, and a date. And all of this is coming together. Then we have that great news story where says Trump, let's say, they're supposed to come in at 2 a.m. D.C. time this morning. So it's 00:45 hours, so it's about another hour and a half or so before Trump meets these guys coming into D.C. because their plane first landed on U.S. soil in Anchorage. Trump says he's going to meet the freed Americans when they land in D.C. area early Thursday morning. But otherwise, where was Obama on this? Where was the previous administration on this? Why weren't they working on trying to free these people from North Korea? Obama was interested in being in kissing the arse of North Korea, Russia,
and
Iran, China, and all points in between. He was on the U.S. is bad tour for 8 years, bending and scraping and kneeling before anyone that he possibly could, including their photographs of him bowing before the Burger King. Guaranteed. You go to the internet, you can find those bad boys. Swear to God. So the Freed Americans told the State Department upon touching down in Alaska Wednesday evening, we would like to express our deep appreciation to the United States government, President Trump, Secretary Pompeo, and the people of the United States for bringing us home. Thank God. We thank God and all our families and friends who prayed for us in our return. God bless America, the greatest nation in the world. Would that have happened, Clint?
No.
Under the lovely auspices of President Hillary Rodham Clinton.
Nope. Nope, not at all.
Well, why not? What would be your reasonings for thinking that she wouldn't do something like this? That she's not a good negotiator?
No.
Oh, you wound me. You wound Clint. You wound me.
I mean, I can't be any clearer than that. No, absolutely not. Look, her husband is the one that is the reason that the Iranians, the North Koreans had 10 years of unobstructed, unrestricted access to develop their nuclear program.
That's right, and gave missile technology in 1994 to
the
China.
Chinese.
And then, of course, it came back to
North Korea.
North Korea.
Yes.
As well.
Yeah.
There's
So
a
no.
shocker. So we would not have had that. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo left North Korea early Wednesday morning with the 3 American detainees. By the way, I looked at some of that footage. When they were still there, they walked them out. They did the perp walk to these guys. They were still in handcuffs during the transition to the Americans. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo left North Korea early Wednesday morning with the 3 American detainees whom the Trump administration had referred to as hostages. They were released ahead of an upcoming meeting between Trump and the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un that will focus on North Korea's nuclear weapons. And what has Trump already said about that meeting? If he doesn't like it, he's going to walk.
He's going to walk out. And look, I think this speaks volumes to President Trump's negotiation skill, because I would be shocked to learn that he had nothing to do with their release. I am sure that there was something about, oh, you want me to come to the table? By the way, I need a token of good faith. I need this. I need these 3 individuals released. Look how Trump is getting a lot already. Bang for his buck. Look, North Korea, if they end up walking away and saying, no, we're going to keep what we have, we're not going to get rid of our nuclear problem, we're going to keep exactly what we have, we're in no worse shape than we were before we started.
Exactly.
If North Korea says we're going to continue to develop our program and we're going to develop a missile, we are in no worse shape than we were when this thing started.
That's like the Iranian deal. What's the difference between deal or no deal? They're still going to develop the program.
Yes.
Period. And you're
now we have
a massive moron if you think otherwise.
And now we have 3 additional Americans that are out. We have China pressuring Little Kim. We have Little Kim going into South Korea the first time since the ceasefire, as I understand it,
right?
And talking about peace,
and
talking about ending the war,
and perhaps signing a document which indicates the war is officially ended, because it never did officially end.
Correct. So I'm sorry, I missed the part where Donald Trump is a horrible, horrible president. I missed that part. Does he piss people off? Yeah, of course he pisses people off.
Yeah, is he imprecise?
Is he imprecise? Yeah. Does he open his mouth too much on Twitter?
Does he misspeak?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course he does. But I'm missing the part where the results don't speak that he is a damn good lowest unemployment rate against African Americans.
You're going to love this. There was
his
a guy.
support. I'm sorry, it's BZ. His support among the African American community is up from like 11% to 22%, and climbing. There are enough free jobs right now where everybody can have a job.
The lowest unemployment rate for Hispanics, the lowest unemployment rate for blacks in at least 3 to 4 decades.
Yes.
Under President Trump. I was listening to somebody on Tucker Carlson last night, and as they were talking about, well, all of the things we're talking about right now, this man actually looked Tucker Carlson in the eye and said, President Trump doesn't have one accomplishment. That's the running theme, though, of leftists. So after this today,
what did Tucker Carlson say in response to that?
He went off on another issue. In my opinion, he left that on the table, and it needed to have been rebuked immediately.
Because now that guy is going to go back and say, "Look, he didn't have a response."
Yeah, that's way silly. However, that being said, I decided that with the 3 people being released, with all the stuff happening about North Korea, all the things that are going on with in terms of Iran and the deal, the upcoming meetings, the 3 people being released, I watched CNN as much as I could, which was about 5 minutes, and all they were talking about, take a guess.
Russia.
No.
The Mueller probe.
Stormy Daniels and the attorney.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a good one.
The guy's name is Manzanetti or something like that. Daily Caller now came out with an article today, which I have in here somewhere. I got about almost 40 tabs open. I can't find that damn article. But essentially what it said is the attorney for Stormy Daniels was alleging that Trump had taken, that Michael Cohen had taken $500,000, and that's where the $130,000 came off to pay Stormy Daniels, except now that Daily Caller has come out with an article indicating that of the Michael Cohens cited by that attorney, 2 of them are the wrong Michael Cohen.
Yes.
Are you fucking kidding me? And the answer is no. Facts mean nothing anymore to leftists.
Yep.
They are damn near immaterial.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, did the attorney lie? Michael Cohen did this. Well, yeah, Michael Cohen may have done that, but it wasn't this Michael Cohen.
Well, and a year and a half of this investigation from Mueller, what do we have?
Nothing. Nothing.
And all we've heard.
And you have problems with the cases that you have. That you have.
As I've said for a long time, what are those crimes? What are those indictments that I see? Those are crimes of process, not of substance. What do we have indicating any direct linkage back to Trump and Russia and hacking the elections? And the answer is we have nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the issue of the DOJ. Why is it any right-thinking individual has to ask why the DOJ under Rod Rosenstein, who seems to have Jeff Sessions moving around like a little puppet on a string,
yeah.
Why is it that Rod Rosenstein won't even allow the documents indicating the parameters of the Mueller investigation be revealed to the House Senate Intelligence Committee?
Or to the judge.
Or to the judge, Judge Ellis,
yes.
who was a Reagan appointee from 1987.
And who scolded.
Called out the Mueller attorneys in court and said, this has nothing, if anything, to do with Paul Manafort, because that judge he's in the Eastern District of Virginia, and he called out the Mueller attorneys because he's been a sitting judge now for over 30 years and has seen everything. The dude is cool. He was born in Bogota, Colombia, has picked up his JD at Harvard, all sorts of stuff like that, and he's the first to point fingers back at these attorneys, saying, this is a ruse to go and squeeze Manafort to get whatever it is that you can on Trump. Let me ask you this question. We got about 5 more minutes before the end of the show. Let me ask you this question. Two if-then equations. We know that Rod Rosenstein wrote the note and the memo that President Trump used to justify the firing of James Comey.
Yes.
Then Rod Rosenstein appointed Robert Mueller to determine what the problem was, and one of the issues apparently is the firing of James Comey by President Trump.
Yes.
What does that make Rod Rosenstein?
A piece of shit.
A co-conspirator.
Oh. There's no crime. Trump can fire him, so there's no crime.
Of course, but
so
does
there's
it
no
not, if you're going to go that direction, doesn't that make Rod Rosenstein, having written that memo, a co-conspirator in whatever it is that you're going to accuse Trump of?
No, because you can't have a co-conspirator in something that's not a crime. So it doesn't make him anything, which is why I think,
as they're concerned,
which is why I think he appointed him, because he knows he's not a co-conspirator of crime.
It's a crime. Now,
it's not a crime.
Here's the other reason.
It is not a crime.
They're alleging.
They haven't even alleged that that's a crime.
The second if-then equation is this. What do law enforcement officers and people that prosecute cases have to do when they believe that there's a crime and they instigate an investigation? You can't just go on a fishing expedition. You have to have evidence or probable cause, or at least minimal, great reasonable suspicion. But better yet, probable cause to believe that a crime has in fact been committed. Do you see, but upon the special counsel appointment, any reasonable suspicion or probable cause which would lead the DOJ to instigate an investigation in the first place when they don't have a strict delineated reason for doing it, which is why the DOJ under Rod Rosenstein is refusing to allow anyone to look at the documents which list the parameters of the Mueller investigation to begin with, which tells me it's all specious bullshit.
So what was the if then?
Well, if you open an investigation,
right,
then don't you have to have a predicate crime that you're alleging has been committed? And after this point of time, have we seen anything in any of these investigations or prosecutions lead any thinking human being to conclude that it has the remotest thing to do with Trump, collusion, Russia,
so I'm going to give
and the hacking of the election?
I'm going to give a thoughtful response. My thoughtful response is this. I don't have access to all of the documents, so I can't say what their probable cause is or is not. I will say that I have not seen anything that would lend me to believe that President Trump assisted the Russians in hacking our election system and rigging the election, which would be criminal. I don't think that collusion is not a criminal offense. So if Russia, if Trump colluded, collusion is a term that's made up.
What is collusion?
It had to do with businesses and business dealings, I believe, with anti-monopoly laws and those sorts of things, I believe. But collusion is it's not a criminal statute. There is no criminal collusion statute.
It's a weasel word.
It's a weasel word. So if they're investigating collusion, no, they're not investigating a crime. But if they're investigating the Trump administration for assisting Russia with interfering with our elections or rigging the elections, then that would be a crime, and then that would be your scope of the investigation, correct? But what their probable cause is or is not, I can't speak to that because we don't have access to all the documents. But I don't think there's anything there. If there was something there, they'd be gloating all over the place, would they not? Parading around,
yes,
little paper in their hand. Of course they would. And I think that the Mueller investigation has exceeded the scope. I think the scope was so overbroad as to be erroneous or unlawful on its face.
It makes Ken Starr jealous.
Yeah. I think if you have something that's overly broad, it can be illegal on its face, or it can be thrown out on its face, and I think that's the case here. His authority seems like it is so overbroad and overreaching, and that it's being used simply to screw with the Trump administration. Now, if Donald Trump committed a crime, if Donald Trump got together with the Russians and they conspired. See, collusion is different.
Yes,
they're not
much different.
But if he got together and conspired, and the two are not the same, so don't be fooled by that, folks. He conspired to take the election, then that's a problem. He should be impeached and he should be thrown in prison. I'd be the first one to stand up there and say that. But that doesn't seem to be the case, and nobody is alluding to that. Nobody is accusing him of conspiring. They're accusing him of colluding.
Where's the beef?
It's 10 o'clock. I'm going to go get some.
One final
from
thing.
The drive-thru.
One final interesting point is that tomorrow, Devin Nunes and Trey Gowdy are going to walk over to the DOJ, and Rod Rosenstein has said that under a certain set of conditions, he will allow them to see the documents that delineate the parameters for the Mueller investigation. Tomorrow should be a very interesting day, or perhaps Friday, when maybe either Devin Nunes or Trey Gowdy start to talk about what it is that they said or that they saw, and or can they do anything with it? Is this just a show? It's a dog and pony show to jerk off the GOP and the House Intelligence Committee.
I think Trey Gowdy is there to measure his seat when he becomes the next Attorney General.
Oh my God.
On that note,
wouldn't that be delicious?
Sir, it's been a pleasure.
That would be great.
Right? Imagine that guy in there.
Cool. And he said that he's done with politics.
Yes, he is.
He wants to go back into law in some fashion, where he says there's right and wrong and black and white, the exact opposite of politics.
Yep.
Folks, you've been listening to the Sackheads Against Tyranny radio show. It's been Wednesday, May 9th, 2018, as opposed to May 9th, 2017, when we found out tonight that Sackheads Clint was abso-damn-lutely correct about California approving a bill saying communists can serve. How cool is that? Folks, thanks for listening. Come back next week, next Wednesday, for the Sackheads Against Tyranny show. Good night. Take care.
Can't believe you just said hello.